Hey everybody, Portland Chess Shop here, back to bring you the chess action, and we're doing a Nakamura analysis. This is part two, and this is Nakamura versus Sauerkraut. We saw in the first 5 games, we're looking at the past 20 games in his history. In the first 5, he won all 5, and we're just looking a little bit at how he does it. There's some interesting styles that he uses. So we're going to jump forward. We're going kind of quick because we have 20 games to analyze in a single night. So this time, Nakamura decides to play king pawn up 2, which is interesting because we saw that in the other games he was definitely avoiding mainstream opening theory, but this time he plays into a Sicilian. So I wonder if that'll favor him. So this is probably a line. I'm not totally sure though, but he doesn't play d4 for a while. He's probably going to be forced to play d4 here. So here they have d4 and kind of the opposite. You might expect that Nakamura had black in this position, just guessing because Nakamura's been playing with a hyper-modern style, but here he's the player with the big center and his opponent is taking the hyper-modern stance. So pawn up, and here's sacrifice, after which black is supposed to be a little bit better. Here's a return sacrifice by Sauerkraut, which is pretty interesting. He does win this pawn, so it seems like a good sacrifice. The computer seems to like it. He's also going to be able to take this bishop, apparently, if he wants, but he doesn't decide to take the bishop. Now bishop h6 is played. If the bishop takes, then there's a check here. Decides to play pawn up. Now white is apparently slightly better. Let's jump forward to kind of see what happens. So is this a 5-minute game? Because both players are a little bit lower on time. It seems like they've kind of been thinking. Nakamura was playing pretty fast in some of the other games, but this player is pretty good. He kind of knows that it's a challenge. He has to play pretty well. So the possibility of a queen trade is declined. Queen moves around. f4 is played. Nakamura is good at sacrificing pawns. He just sacrificed another one with that f4 move. But it doesn't look like it was that sound of a sacrifice. So we've been talking a little bit about, chess as a gambling game, as a game, which you need to take risks, and you just sometimes you get it in good and it doesn't work out, and sometimes you play a move that isn't getting it in good. F4 is maybe not the best move, but he's able to play it and almost bluff or something, right? So there's some poker elements to it. As I played poker tonight, and if you watched the first video, you know that I lost tonight. I'm a little bit, wanting to tell my sad stories of how I got unlucky, but that's just poker, I guess. So knight comes. Look at this. It looks like he can't play queen takes because then the rook takes the bishop. So there's always some tactics behind Nakamura's play. Oh, there's a mate right there. Well, that's pretty obvious, but I guess I didn't see it till it was played either. So that's kind of embarrassing, I think, for Sauerkraut, but that's a checkmate. So Nakamura playing a little bit fast and putting some pressure on his opponents. Here's the next one. So Nakamura is white again and does decide to play centrally with the queen pawn, but he plays the Trompowsky opening, which is kind of exciting because it's an opening I used to play. So this is one of the more classical lines. It's a little less crazy. So apparently white is pretty significantly better here after knight b3. No, just after developing his knight. I don't know. I think it's just crafty thinking that. So here Nakamura tries to sacrifice a pawn. So you see there's so many pawn sacrifices, which is kind of has to do with that gambling thing of like sacking pawns. I mean, that's the same as, sacrificing chips or something. Kind of interesting. So knight comes forward, and you can just see that white is much better developed than his opponent in this position. So I do think that this position favors white. Takes, queen goes over there, pawn up, castles. So in this position, pawn up is played, and this pawn is also moved up, which is apparently a mistake. So knight to e4 was better. I don't know. Actually, the computer doesn't think that this position is so good for white anymore. It's kind of rethunk it. So now the knight does come to e4, attacks the queen. And it looks like black was able to complete most of his development. White has a small advantage because he has some more space. But black's not doing so bad. f5 gave him some space in the king side. And he's threatening things like f4. So the bishop has to move. Now e5 is really good, and it looks like white is losing material. So Nakamura's up some time, but not that much time. Nakamura says, okay, well, if I'm going to lose a piece anyway, maybe I'll play this move. Oh, threatening to pin the queen. So making a little cheapo threat. Knight attacks, and now there's another takes. But after rook takes, it might not be so good. Takes, takes, takes. So there's definitely some complications in this line. Takes, but after pawn up, yeah, it just... So I guess we'll jump back for just a second, try to see exactly what happened here. So white was better in this position. And then in this position, I think bishop g5 was good, trying to trade off that bishop, be a little less claustrophobic. But bishop f4 was a mistake basically because e5 was really good. I mean, you're threatening e4 next. And so in this position, Nakamura's up a little bit of time, but starts to go for tries to find some complications. And he is good at finding complications in this position, but they don't totally favor him, and his opponent plays pretty well. His opponent is now down on time, though. So here, takes, pawn takes, takes. Kind of a wild variation. So taking the bishop, I mean, this bishop isn't even developed, so it's not a very good bishop. So taking the knight is actually much better because the pawn structure is still weak, and yeah, pawn takes. Actually, f3 is going to be played, and then you might play pawn up, and then takes back, and then centralize your queen. Your queen is threatening checkmate and threatening the pawn on c6, so that variation would be much better. So this looks like to be perhaps a decisive mistake, taking here. Pawn up takes. And this pawn is pretty dangerous, so the knight comes forward and the queen comes out to the side. So, looks like there was a big blunder by Nakamura here. So in this position, well, it doesn't look like queen e3 was too good. But after queen e3, this queen move was pretty good because it looks like Nakamura can take the knight, but actually after queen takes here, it's just going to be checkmate. So he realizes he can't do it. And here he blunders. He doesn't take too long, but it's a pretty significant blunder. His only move is g4, which seems kind of very suicidal. Pretty crazy. g4, knight e takes g4, queen e6 attacks the queen and the rook in order to defend in that position. Pretty crazy. But Nakamura doesn't find that wild tactic. And so there's these two checks, and then this queen falls. And this position is just way too good for black. Takes, takes, the king has to take. And, oh yeah, because after pawn takes, then pawn up. So that's the end of that game. Nakamura loses a game. He's 5-1 so far. And he decides to go on another winning streak. So Nakamura has white again. I wonder if he's going to play something like b3 or g3. I know that was backwards. Or continue playing some more mainline stuff. Does decide to play queen pawn again and plays the Trompowsky again. So the idea behind this is to open the H file. This is an exchange, so this pawn up is kind of sweet because now he's going to have to take this way. And you can actually start to try to attack this pawn with, I don't know, bishop or something. Tries to keep this pawn. Well, that seems ambitious. But the position is pretty far out of normal territory already. This bishop comes here, pinning the knight. Queen comes out. Looks like it's taking the rook. But I think that there's some... Yeah, queen d4, for example, because this is pinned. So now he's okay. Takes, takes. Knight comes out. f4 is played. That's kind of wild. And a4. Pretty wild. Look at how exposed this king looks. But it's not really that exposed just because white has a lot of the lines. It's amazing that Nakamura hasn't finished developing. Nakamura, he catches a lot of his opponents by surprise by playing things that don't seem good but have weird ideas behind them. This is so weird. He hasn't finished developing, but then again, this bishop is weak, and these rooks are not doing that much in this position. Somehow this knight is like really good. So he does decide to finish his development, and then starts to move his king. Moves his king back and forth. You see he's up a minute and 40 seconds. But pretty crazy position. Decides to play pawn up and just say, okay, your bishop's a dark square bishop. I'm going to keep all my pawns in dark squares. And these are passed pawns, which passed pawns are good. They turn into queens. But then one of the pawns fall, and now black is better, but Nakamura has more time. What happened here? So here takes, rook takes, king takes. So, this move is basically just a blunder because of knight d4. Bishop c4 is going to be the best move, but he doesn't even play it. Takes this way, and Nakamura wins a piece. He must have won that basically with time. Because, yeah, so here he's queening this pawn. It's good to turn your pawns into queens. So yeah, Nakamura, you see that he is way up on time, so he does play really fast. But it's just interesting to see, that he gambles, if you will. He doesn't always play like the best variation, and he's like winning and losing in every game. It goes back and forth, but he just often, gets his opponent in time trouble, and his opponent makes a blunder, and he's able to win. So Nakamura's white in this game. Pretty unusual position, but apparently white is better. Takes, bishop, queen. This is kind of funny. It just doesn't strike me as what I would do initially, because I want to keep my pawns, defending each other. But it doesn't look like there's too many ways to attack it. It is defended twice. Castles, knight f4. Yeah, so the knight's good at defending this pawn, but g5 could be played at some point. Jumping forward. So here there's just a little bit of a tactic. I guess this pawn move up prevented something like c6, but also threatened this. So I think Nakamura going for a little bit of a cheapo, but you see how much time he has. That's an element with his cheapo. Takes, exchanges off everything, and goes for this move. Interesting that black resigns in this exact position, because you can take it. It's not like it's a tactic. He's going to play rook here, and then he's actually going to be able to win this pawn back and have some open lines for his rooks. So this is a good move, but it's just interesting to see that his opponent taps out in that exact position. All right, next one. We have a player against Nakamura. Nakamura is a heavy favorite in this game. Nakamura decides to fianchetto the bishop and come forward with the knight. No, that's not true. Nakamura is black, and he is putting his knights in the corner, and then hopefully bringing his knights back towards the center. But I don't know how that knight's coming back towards the center. That just looks like a dubious move. That's how he does it, though. Oh, he plays f5. That's the idea behind it, to sort of break through, be able to take back with the knight, or even come back with the knight. I think the idea is mostly just to create a new position that his opponent hasn't seen before. Kind of dubious as it is. So here we have something like the triangle from the Semi-Slav, except there's a knight here instead of a pawn. And this bishop's being shadowed, but it looks like the position is, safe. It looks equal. Seems fine. We see that Nakamura is playing fast. He's up over a minute again in this game. So he plays 5 minutes. He tries to play the speed of 1 minute or something, but he'll go really fast. Sometimes he'll slow down a little bit, but mostly just play fast and just be as dangerous as he can. So apparently white is a little bit better in this position, or it's still pretty much equal. Oh, so there was a blunder was made. So in this position, this knight is attacked twice, and it's defended twice. So you have to keep defending it, but for whatever reason, he goes for this pawn, and it's just not a good idea because the knight falls. And now d4 is played to support the bishop, make sure that you get to keep the piece, because there is a pin on this file. The knight decides to come here, so this is some shenanigans to try to defend, but it's not really going to work because of this rook check, which I'm pretty sure Nakamura is going to play. Nakamura doesn't play it. He just takes the knight. Alright. Takes the knight, the rook defends, king goes over. So this knight move is taking advantage of a pin, right? Because if the pawn takes, then you take the rook. So we do see Nakamura using tactical elements in his games. We also see he's up over 2 minutes, almost 2.5 minutes. Pretty significant. So pawn takes back, takes knight. And he's not up quite as much now, but his opponent only has 11 seconds. So pretty easy. He actually has like given it away the game. The game is like a draw at this point. He was up like +8. And now it's like equal. Well, now apparently there was a blunder made. And now it's a checkmate, but computer thought that maybe it really deserved to be sort of a perpetual in that position. Oh, it looks like Nakamura actually gave the guy extra time. Kind of ridiculous. I've seen him do this before. So here he gave his opponent 30 seconds. You see that? But he checkmated him like the next turn. So, well, that's that. Let's see. How many have we seen? That was this guy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was the first session. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was the second session. All right, so part 3 coming up. Thanks for watching. If you like these videos, please thumbs up them because that helps me get more views, and I really appreciate it. Second of all, if you have comments on any of your videos, I read almost all the comments at this point, and it's pretty fun. I try to respond to as many as I can, especially if they make sense. Like if you see some line that's interesting or whatever, I try to respond. So yeah, I was having a lot of messages, a lot of comments before, but I actually haven't had any for a few days. I've been missing it, so give me something to do at work so I can respond to your comments. So thanks for watching, appreciate it. I'll be back soon. Bye.